morning, everyone. This is Tony from her Homestead Skills, and I'm going to touch on a topic that perhaps I should stay away from, but I've decided that I'm going to add my 2 cents in. Maybe not the wisest thing in the world. There has been a bit of angst on some YouTube channels of late, and understandably so to some degree. I would hazard a guess that a lot of it is a distraction. It is meant to distract and to divide, and it does seem to be having that effect. Not to say that it isn't important. I think it's very much important. But what is going on in the world is of much more consequence than what happens in one little or 2 or 3 environments where something that you object to is occurring. Okay, and I'm gonna touch on that briefly. I happen to agree it's very objectionable. It shouldn't be happening. But let's get back to what should we be focusing on? Perhaps an imminent train strike. It's going to have much far-reaching consequences over everyone's lives if that actually goes through. And even if the government decides to step in and stop it, is there any guarantee that these people that work in that environment are going to do what the government tells them to? We see that people all over the world are getting very angry at government mandates and government controls. And I'm not one to say that, yeah, we should disobey the government. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that it's happening. It's happening all around the world. I'm old enough to remember the last uprising in China and how brutal it was. Tiananmen Square, they were running over people with tanks. That's how ugly it was. And that's how they put an end to that uprising. Does that mean that they'll put an end to this one as well? At some point, the people do win. You know, Iran, they've been killing people over a woman showing a little bit of hair. Talk about being overly strict with morality. Anyway, what's going on in Iran and China should be of note to us here, that people will only put up with so much, and then they'll say enough is enough. And if the situation in China goes from bad to worse, it really doesn't matter if there's a train strike or not, if there's nothing for the trains to carry from one destination to the other. So I think that what's going on there is vital to the well-being of this country, vital to North America for all kinds of things. The other thing, of course, that we're being distracted from is the effect that inflation will have on you in the next little while. I keep saying that the new year is going to be ugly, and it will be ugly. There'll be a lot more job losses. There'll be a lot more people losing homes. I think everyone's expecting that. And yes, anything to distract you. Anything to get you angry at that person and that individual and that particular thing, rather than where the anger is actually should be directed to, for creating a situation that is really a man-made problem. It didn't have to happen. So anyway, once again, my 2 cents worth. Now, we in North America, we're still putting up with an awful lot. And unfortunately, there are those that want certain things to occur, and then there are those on the other side. But what they're doing effectively here is that they're keeping us divided. And as long as you can keep the population divided, you can control them. Whereas what's happening both in China and in Iran is that the population is united. They're on the same page. All the people want specific change, and they are rising up and fighting for it. Now, here, it's an interesting tactic to keep one group fighting against the other group, and one group blaming the other group, and this person only cares about money, they don't care about people, and this person only cares about so-and-so, and this person's wrong, and this person's right. Okay, so now to touch on the subject at hand. And I would have to say that I don't agree with boycotting any store or any establishment based on the fact that you don't like what they're doing. I do agree with letting them know, and by the multitudes letting them know that you don't agree with what they're doing. But there are other ways to put an end to that sort of behavior that you don't agree with, and that is to boycott the situation and not the store. It doesn't matter if the store supports it or not. If they're supporting it today, somebody else will support it tomorrow. But if you boycott the events totally themselves, that puts an end to those events. And I have to ask, where are the parents? Is it really the responsibility of a retail chain to decide? I can understand that they should think a little bit more clearly about what they're doing, but the bottom line is, I'm the parent. And if I take my child to an event, which I believe is family friendly, and it turns out not to be, I take my child by the arm or pick them up and walk away. That is the responsible thing to do. If I don't want my child exposed to something, I remove them from that situation. Now, is it the store's responsibility? I don't think so. I don't think that, let me put it to you this way. Somebody in this great big huge chain of a retail establishment made a decision to do something, and it has affected every other innocent member in that establishment. You can't tell me that they're all guilty because they all fall under an umbrella of this name. It's the same thing as saying that I'm responsible for the massacre of Indians because people who came before me did that. I fall under an umbrella that somebody says I'm responsible for this, where I had nothing to do with it. And unfortunately, that goes on all the time. You belong to a certain group, therefore you're responsible. And I'm like, hey, I've got nothing to do with that. I had no input into that. I had no say into it. I had no action into that event. Why should I be held responsible and made guilty because of that person's actions and that individual's actions, that particular I'd say either hold that person responsible or boycott the event. Okay, that's my 2 cents worth. I may be wrong, and perhaps I'm wrong for having interfered here, but I think that there are other things that we could be focused on that are a lot more important to us. And allowing something like this to divide us, and it is not the fact that children are not important. They are important. But if teachers are not responsible for raising those children, then neither am I, as another parent, responsible for raising your children. It is up to you to determine what your children are exposed to, or at least do the best you can in that respect. We can't always control our children, but when they're very small, we can. Anyway, this is Tony from Her Homestead Skills, perhaps interjecting where I shouldn't. Oh well. Have a great day, everyone. Bye for now.